Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Shay Douglas here, and today I'm going to have a great conversation. I'm really excited to share this with you. I've got Dennis O'Connor from Awakening in Health with me, and we're going to look at the connecting link between the double-slit experiment and a holistic approach to health. Now, if you've never heard of what the double-slit experiment is, don't worry, because we've got an example to show you, and we're going to go through it very step by step and simply. Then we're going to look at the science behind somatics and go deeper into understanding water and how our physical human biological being is a really nice little encapsulation of this water element, and how we can really be empowered and inspired moving forward, knowing that there is hope, that there is potential for us as humans moving forward, given everything that's going on in the world. So I just really want to welcome you, Dennis. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, everybody.
Good man.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite topics. I really like talking about this because we're all really tied into this very 3D type of world. And when we realize that there's a stack more other than this perception that we have, it just unlocks the most powerful applications in our bodies that can lead to just incredible and miraculous outcomes in relation to our health. And that includes our physical health and our mental health. And the connection that people make to the power of our consciousness is almost never delivered to us by media, by doctors. And it's kind of being pushed into this little corner of weird or alternative. And it's actually not. We've got valid, full, proper Western, mainstream experiments that show us what we're going to open the door to one of these considerations, which is just absolutely powerful.
Fantastic. And who would you suggest this kind of information is for? Obviously, it has to do with everybody, it has to do with health. We all want to be healthy, living, alive beings, but it also encapsulates, what, like you talked about, matter, the physical matter of things on the earth. It includes the universe, it includes plant life, animal life, it includes the sun, it includes what we can't see, like the wind or sound or Wi-Fi frequencies, right? It includes all of this. And so I'm really excited by this conversation and this experiment particularly, and what it proves to us, because this is really tapping into the quantum element of understanding physics, the sciences behind how the universe operates, right?
Absolutely. And while I could, draw it out and spell it out and maybe put my nuances on it, this little video that I'm going to be showing you now is just a 5-minute song. We'll pause it every so often and just make sure everything kind of is flowing smoothly, or we'll make comments on it. But it does it way better than I could do it, okay? And that's from just to give a bit of credit there, from Dr. Quantum double-slit experiments. It's a little bit old. The quality, could be a little bit more modern, but listen, these guys have done a great job. So we're going to run with this and then just put our little spin on it to kind of relate that back to health. So you good to start playing that? Okay, awesome. So let's see about hitting play here.
Oh, quantum weirdness, the infamous double-slit experiment. To understand this experiment, we first need to see how particles, or little balls of matter, act. If we randomly shoot a small object, say a marble, at the screen, we see a pattern on the back wall where they went through the slit and hit. Now, if we add a second slit, we would expect to see a second band duplicated to the right. Now, let's look at waves. The waves hit the slit and radiate out, striking the back wall with the most intensity directly in line with the slit. The line of brightness on the back screen shows that intensity. This is similar to the line the marbles make. But when we add the second slit, something different happens. If the top of one wave meets the bottom of another wave, they cancel each other out. So now there is an interference pattern on the back wall. Places where the two tops meet are the highest intensity, the bright lines, and where they cancel, there is nothing. So, when we throw things...
So just to pause it there for a second, and obviously this is talking about stuff from a macro point of view. So, but the analogy is very, very similar to when we get down to the quantum point of view of looking at it. But this idea of this interference pattern and the way to explain it is what's important. And the analogy overlaps absolutely perfectly. Just to reiterate there, on one slit, you have just one line coming through this slit, but when two are added, you get this interference pattern. And this is really important at this stage. Any questions?
No, sounds good.
Fantastic.
Things, that is, matter, through two slits, we get this, two bands of hits. And with waves, we get an interference pattern of many bands. Good so far. Now, let's go quantum. An electron is a tiny, tiny bit of matter, like a tiny marble. Let's fire a stream through one slit. It behaves just like the marble, a single band. So, if we shoot these tiny bits through two slits, we should get, like the marbles, two bands. What? An interference pattern. We fired electrons, tiny bits of matter through. But we get a pattern like waves, not like little marbles. How? How could pieces of matter create an interference pattern like a wave? It doesn't make sense. But physicists are clever. They thought, maybe those little balls are bouncing off each other and creating that pattern. So they decide to shoot electrons through one at a time. There is no way they could interfere with each other. But after an hour of this, the same interference pattern is seen to emerge. The conclusion is inescapable. The single electron leaves as a particle, becomes a wave of potentials, goes through both slits, and interferes with itself to hit the wall like a particle. But mathematically, it's
So that's just so profound, right? This idea of Newtonian physics all being solid and caught up. And we can see with this experiment, this is absolutely not true. And this relates to everything, especially how we think about our bodies. So, you know, when I go through this experiment, I really feel the profound implications of adapting these kind of thoughts to how we treat our health.
Yeah, I love that. And what I find so interesting about this experiment is that it gives credibility and validity to this idea that there is so much going on outside of our physical well-being. You know, for us to be physically healthy, you know, there's other areas that we must consider that play a role in that space.
And we are going to be cracking right into that after this. So there's only a couple of more minutes, so bear with us. Hopefully you're enjoying it as much as I am. So I'm just going to restart again.
even stranger. It goes through both slits and it goes through neither. And it goes through just one and it goes through just the other. All of these possibilities are in superposition with each other. But physicists were completely baffled by this. So they decided to peek and see which slit it actually goes through. They put a measuring device by one slit to see which one it went through and let it fly. But the quantum world is far more mysterious than they could have imagined. When they observed, the electron went back to behaving like a little marble. It produced a pattern of 2 bands, not an interference pattern of many. The very act of measuring or observing which slit it went through meant it only went through one, not both. The electron decided to act differently, as though it was aware it was being watched. And it was here that physicists stepped forever into the strange, never world of quantum events. What is matter? marbles or waves? And waves of what? And what does an observer have to do with any of this? The observer collapsed the wave function simply by observing.
Powerful video, and I'm really excited to dive into this a little bit deeper, because even though that was a simple little cartoon to understand, there's so many little avenues we can go down with this. So super stoked to open this combo up, Dennis.
Absolutely. So the massive things to take out of that little video are that, one, maybe the whole world as we perceive it is not the way we are taught to perceive it. In other words, maybe it's not so solid, and maybe it exists as waves. And then we have the idea that our consciousness can collapse these waves. And this actually takes us towards some very supernatural stuff. And essentially, by looking at anything, we all have superpowers. It's almost like we're out of these incredible Marvel comic movies. So if we can have it as an absolute categorical fact that our consciousness influences matter, we can take this one step further. And we have somebody called Masaru Emoto, who has done some absolutely incredible work on this. And Shay is going to pull up some pictures of his experiments on water and in relation to him observing water. And I can break this down a little bit. What I find incredibly interesting is that when we talk about these guys like Masaru Emoto and you do a search, he is debunked as some sort of quack. And his experiments relate right back to this one of the double slit experiment. And it's incredibly profound.
Yeah, thanks, Dennis. Before we get into that, though, I'm really curious as to the power implication of the double slit experiment in the role of the observer. So what they're explaining in this experiment is that the way that particles change is when someone is observing it. When there was no observer, no means of measurement, then it would go back to its kind of original form, right? And so having that observation has a powerful role in the outcome of the form of matter, essentially, in the way that it shapes itself. And so that's what I think is very important in connecting as the link when we look at the double slit experiment, and then we look at the implications of consciousness, or the awareness, the self-awareness that we have on external matter, such as in this case, what we're going to look at is water. So what I'll do is I'll just pull up the experiment, which was done with water. So here it is, one moment. Maybe Dennis, you could explain a little bit more.
Absolutely. And when we think about consciousness, it almost implies that we are looking or observing or are awake, and this is exactly what's happening. So when our eyes are open and we are observing, we are actually affecting matter all around us. And I'm going to get Shay to jump to this incredible picture here, and this is one that Mr. Emoto did, and he was famous for putting intention into water. And you've got two different water molecules. Okay, they're just single molecules of water. The one on the left is one that he had negative intention towards, and the one is on the right is one that he had positive intention towards. And he used to do some incredible experiments where he would label water with words like in Japanese like love, or neutral emotion, or negative emotion. And the molecular structure of the water changed with each one. They're the most incredible kind of pictures that validate how important our focus and our intention is. And then this segues absolutely perfectly into health. Our bodies are comprised almost exclusively of water. And if we now know that our attention, our direction, our mood, whether it's positive or whether it's negative, can influence water, we have to make the assumption, and I think it's an extremely accurate assumption, that our intention is either positively or adversely affecting every water molecule in our body. So being aware of your surroundings and of your intention and of your mood is of the utmost importance to wellness.
Great perspective. Yeah, I really like that. And obviously from this experiment, as we can see here in the water, the beauty in that positive structure, it's like almost perfectly symmetrical. It's got this kind of elegant glow about it. It has this frequency and vibration that seems to be fully in it's like this amazing expression. And I think that's really important to take into consideration, especially when we talk at health and well-being, is that a human, for example, like as you said, who's full of water, when they are, happy, vibrant, joyful, alive, it's like when you walk into that room and then in the corner, you can see there's this group of people that is just vibrating and laughing and yelling, and instantly everyone is attracted to it and notices it because it has this energy that is infecting the whole room through a positive wave of, joy and happiness and this fully ecstatic emotion. And that becomes instantly in people's awareness. And same too, like this little water molecule, when we look at it, you look at it and you're attracted to it because it has this quality that just seems like it's in harmony, right? And so when we consider going back to the double slit experiment, what I'm interested and excited to share is a little bit on the idea of somatics, which looks at how the universe is created through understanding energy, vibration, and frequency. So maybe you could talk on that, Dennis.
Absolutely, and what you said there was so pivotal. And just to I guess put another just slight little step in the middle, when we were looking at the double slit experiment, one of the important considerations there was this idea of waves, and energy creates waves. So the implication and the connection between energies and waveforms is absolutely vital. And when we look at the whole area of somatics, the beautiful frequencies that different sorts of energies create when waves and sounds are used are absolutely astonishing. And I know Shay, I think, has got something that he's going to pull up here. And this is just one of many examples of how waves can be a part of creation. And then we can pull this back one step before and say our consciousness is affecting the waves. But just have a look here at the beauty of what you're going to see. And maybe, Shay, you can just explain which video you're going to chuck on.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we jump into it, if you haven't heard of somatics, you're going to find out very quickly what it is. So here it is, guys. Hope you enjoy.
The film you're about to see has no characters. If you spare a little of your imagination, this is a film to describe to you the effect of cymatic frequencies on matter.
So essentially what we're seeing here is this experiment where a guy has sound frequencies underneath. He's got a glass plate, adding some really fine particles of salt or sand and playing different tunes and noticing how the vibration changes its form or its shape, its physical matter, through the different frequencies of energy of sound that he is playing.
And how interesting is that? That looks a lot like the water molecule we saw before, doesn't it, Shay?
Absolutely. So what we can assume here, especially with the water element, is that dependent on the frequency or the sound or the vibration of energy, that the physical matter form is going to change.
And there's an old expression, as above, so below. And if we're seeing this on a macro, there is every reason to believe that exactly the same thing happens on a quantum basis.
Absolutely.
Person is you or me or Shay, and then your intention has to be positive towards yourself. So essentially, a positive intention towards yourself is love. It's about the highest vibration that you can accept, that you can get, and the next one is gratitude, and then another is acceptance. And when we are vibrating at a much better frequency, then we can turn our attention to those people around us. And maybe some of those people are not as aware. And it is very possible that our intention of love and gratitude and forgiveness and acceptance towards those around us can elevate them in this most miraculous and beautiful way.
Love that, Dennis. Well said, man. And I think we just lost a little bit of sound audio there for a while. So just to give a quick recap on the power of these experiments. Sorry about the audio delay. We'll work on that one. But essentially what we're seeing here in these 3 experiments is the power that we have as human beings, because we have this innate ability to become aware and be observers of our environment, and that we have a tremendous impact on the outcome of physical matter based upon our level of awareness through our consciousness. And what I mean by that is we have the choice to decide if we want to be fully embodied in being a creative being within, and choose to intentionally create a positive vibration and set out to create those beautiful harmonic patterns like you'll see when in the water experiment, or if we just go along with what other people are suggesting for us, then there is the potential that we could go down this pathway that leads us to have more destructive, negative beliefs and patterns and intentions that lead to this really kind of stagnant energy that you've seen in the video, the element of with the water experiment. But maybe Dennis, you want to just wrap up essentially what all of this means for you?
I think what all of this means for me is that we don't know everything. We know some profound basics, and those profound basics are that we have to start change with ourselves. We have to be aware that that change can affect other people. And what we need to, or we should be doing, is keeping this change at as high a vibrational frequency as possible, because this is going to affect the people around us. And this is where we can maybe try and start a movement of better global change, and we can move away from these sinister negative energies that we're getting from the people who are trying to control our lives. And these are people like the banking system, the medical system, the governmental system. So we need to be realizing that we have the power for the most incredible godliness and ability that is just incredibly profound.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Dennis. Thanks for sharing that. I feel that the intention behind sharing these videos and recognizing the credibility in these experiments is that it validates some of the deeper intuitive feelings that I've had for a long time as a young being. When I was young boy, and I used to really love being creative and drawing and, you know, making art and moving sticks around and drawing things in the sand, and recognizing, just like that musician in the somatics experience, he's the creator of that energy of water as it shifts shapes. And as he plays a different tune and different vibration, that impacts the water and the molecular structure of matter around it. And so recognizing that at a later date in my adult years, I can see that we have a huge responsibility as individuals to be sure that we are intending to put out a positive vibration for those who we love and who are around us, and not being resilient to the potential harm and negativity that is, you know, in our sphere and in our environment. And so returning to those fundamental practices that are so important for our physical, our mental. And I'll go one step further and look at that space in between, the conscious level, the intelligence that is possible when we become and attune to the awareness of a spiritual realm. And I feel that it's really powerful for us all to recognize that there is so much more going on than we can actually perceive by this limited physical human being. Anything else you want to wrap up?
Absolutely, yeah. After this video, turn off the computer, turn off the phone, get outside, stand in the sun, give somebody a hug, do some breathing, have gratitude, have forgiveness.
Love that. Thanks so much, guys, for watching this video, and we look forward to seeing you in another episode soon.